study page 45 in Tractate Gittin. Just some overview. The subject of releasing prisoners, it's a very serious subject in Jewish law and Jewish thought. How much and how far is okay to do it? Painful subject, for example, is the current ongoing Israelis, terrorists back and forth. They capture Israeli soldiers, in exchange they want X amount of terrorists. How far you go with paying to release prisoners? Sometimes it's a concern that the captures, which usually is the enemies, will take advantage of that and not only overcharge, but also constantly keep doing that. So in one hand we have a Torah prohibition, Lo ta'amod al dam re'echa, you should not stand on your brother's blood. On the other hand, how far you go with that price. It's a famous story, for example, was a great rabbi in Europe, whose name is Maharam, Rabbi Meir Rothenburg, his name of the city. He was captured for no real reason by the enemies. And he insisted, even they want to release him for a large sum amount, he felt that they're overcharged and he refused to accept that. Unfortunately, he died in jail. So this is part of our discussion today. In one hand, we have the mitzvah to release prisoner, but what's the really fair price? How far one should go in that manner of releasing prisoners, especially if it's a prisoner in a sense of unjustifiable jail time, which unfortunately happened. Another phase in our study today is the mitzvah, is the commandment of occupy Eretz Israel or live in Eretz Israel, Yishuv Eretz Israel. The different avenues between the Rambam and Ramban, Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachmanides, in regards to that mitzvah is derivative from the study today is a book called Minyan HaMitzvot, the list of commandments in the Torah, while the Rambam did not list it. The Ramban, the Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, does consider that as a mitzvah, biblical mitzvah. So how far you go with this? So let's start with the law of the slave that we just left yesterday. A slave that was sold for outside of Eretz Israel. So this is page 44, 6 lines from the bottom of the page. Amar Ravanan, Sham'it minei demar Shmuel Tartei. I derived from Shmuel. Shmuel was one of the leading rabbis. Two important statements. It's a side note, we said it several times. Gadol merabban Shmo, the rabbis have a different category of scholarship. In a Talmudic time, when they just use the name, that's the highest. So Shmuel is considering one of them. So the two derivative is one, Chada, Hach, which is someone who sells his slave outside of Eretz Israel. Ve'idach de'itmar hamoser sadehu bishnat hayovel atzma. Meaning, the Torah said in Leviticus chapter 25, verse 10, that if someone sell a field that he inherited it from his ancestors, when it's a Jubilee year, it's returned to him. So it is a disputation what happened if it's during Jubilee year itself. Rav Amar Mechura Veyotzah, which means the purchaser bought that field and therefore it departed from his ownership and goes back to the original owner, meaning in a sense the buyer lost his money, so therefore he cannot get the money back. Shmuel Amar Eina Mechura Kolikar. Shmuel said is no matter of transactions, is no matter of sell, because if you tell me that something that was sold before the Jubilee returned to the sellers, so something that was not sold at all, for sure we don't have any matter of transactions between the parties. So now, Bechada Hadri Zimnei, one of these lists, Shmuel, said that matter of transaction returned to the buyer. Ubechada lo hadri zvinei, which means that the buyer lost his money. Velo yadana eni minayu. Since this is only hearsay, only heard, he's not sure which one what. So now we elaborate on that quandary. Amar Rav Yosef nechaze anan. Midetani b'vraita, since we learn in the previous page, 43b, Hamocher avdo lechutz ha'aretz. If someone takes his slave, remember this Talmudic time, about 1700 years ago, it was a master, it was a slave. Anyway, someone sells his slave outside of Eretz Yisrael, יצא לחירות, he is free now, וצריך גט שחרור מרבו שני. So the second owner, the purchaser, needs to write him a bill of emancipation, meaning his letter that he's free. Shma aminek kani rabo sheni. So it means that the second owner bought him, because you tell me that he needs to write him a letter of release. Velo hadrei zevinei, which means that the money he will not get back, meaning otherwise it will go back to the original first owner. V'chi amar Shmuel hatam, when Shmuel speaks about the law of Jubilee, eina mechura, that the field is not sold, umaot chozrin, and therefore the money goes back to the purchaser. I elaborates on that, page 45. ורבנן, ביתה לא שמיע לוי משמואל, ממאי, דנה מכורה ומאוד חוזרים. How do you know the way that Rav Yosef explained to us that it appeared that this Braita wasn't known to him? Because if you go by the word of Shmuel, that he said that when it's come to Jubilee, the field is not sold at all. How do you know that it's not a matter of final sale and the money returned? Maybe you said that it's all, as Rashi said, it's not a matter of transactions, and therefore so they not return to the purchaser. Now we try to compare to something that the Gemara in Kiddushin, page 46b, tells us about a fellow that betrothed his sister. So obviously, everyone knows that betrothing sister is not a matter of legal. But here we ask a question about the money itself, how you treat it. So they said, Rav said, the money comes back because it's not a real transaction, right? You cannot betroth your sister. Shmuel said, no, he intended to give us as a gift. It's go by as an idea of gift. So the Ritva explains, in comparison to here, when you speak about money and the field in the Jubilee year, if it was sold during the Jubilee year, it will not return because it was a mistake. So that's a different story. So you come back. So the Sfot said you can differentiate. A person knows that not betrothed his sister. But a person doesn't know about doing it in the middle of the Jubilee year. Anyway, Maharsha and Maharam and Rashba elaborates on that, how exactly you make these matter of transactions when it's come to a field. Why you put the fine against the purchaser? You should go by the seller, because he needs to sell to bring back the slave, because the manner of transaction is not legal. So this is a concept you see it several times in the Shas. The idea is, imagine you have a building like this one, okay? You have a walls, right? Walls around this room, and imagine that there is a hole. Somebody did a hole. Now he left a loaf of bread. Come back in the morning, mice came in, and guess what? The mice ate the bread. Whom do you blame? Right? You don't blame the mice, you blame the person that created the hole. Okay? So here it is said that you should blame the purchaser, that he is the cause of sale of the servant. So Abaye continues, if you don't have these sellers, you don't have even the hole. Which means when you have a matter of prohibition, so you impose upon the purchaser, because he had the possession of this slave, that by selling him, he is basically in a violation. So that's the reason why he will need to be fined. The Rishonim, the early rabbi, have a disputation if the slave, if אם העבד לא ברשותו, if it's not in his domain. ההוא עבדה דהרק מחוץ לארץ. Here is the story of someone, a slave that ran from outside of Israel to Israel. אז אמר רבי ד"ר, so his master come after him to return him. עתה לקמד רבי עמי, אמר לו לכתוב לה שטר דמי. So it's a discussion among the Rishonim what he meant, but he basically bring him a letter of emancipation to free him. וכתוב לגיטה דחירותה, meaning write a letter that he's free. ואילו מפקין לך מינה מרבי אחי ברבי יושע, from this root. נתניה, לא ישבו בארצך ביחתיו אותך לי, so the Torah said in the book of Shemot, chapter 3, יכול בו וכוחים משקבל אליו של עבודה וכוחתים לדבר, you may speak about the idol worshiper, that he accept upon himself, as the Pnei Yoshua said, all the 7 Noachide laws, which is, one of them is not to idol worshipping. Talmud לומר, the Torah said in Deuteronomy 23, לא תסגיר אבל לאדוניו, אשר יצא לך מעם אדוניו. So if you have an idol worshiper that run to you in order to save from idol worshipping, you should not make him return to idol worshipping. מהי תקנתו? אם חי ישב בארצך. So the Lechem Mishneh have a discussion here. What do you mean? רק שעושה מרצון, only if he does that with his willness. But if it's meirah, if he does that because he's a fear. So again, Tosfot in page 46 have a discussion, the Rambam in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 20 verse 10 have a discussion, because it may be, יפסיק לפחד, יחטיא אותך, maybe he stop fearing and he causes you to sin. וקשר לרבי יושע היי, מעם אדוניו מעם אביו מבא אלי, which means that some said מעם אלוקיו מבא אלי. אלא אמר רבי יושע במוכר עבדו לחוץ לארץ, הכתוב מדבר. Someone is warned, the beit din, that if a person did a violation and sold his slave outside of Eretz Israel, he should not bring him to his purchase, but he goes free. וקשר לרבי אחי ברבי יושע, היי אשר ינצל לך, אשר ינצל ממך מבא אלי. That's the way the Torah said in Bereshit chapter 31 verse 9. So they said, אלא אמר רבי אחי ברבי יושע, בעבד שברח מחוץ לארץ לארץ מדבר. Here you speak about the slave that ran from outside of Israel to Israel. So here, that's the way the Rambam explained to us in practical halachot in Chod Avadim chapter 8, and also the code Yovedea 267. The rule there that we are prohibited, biblically speaking, to return a slave that ran from outside of Eretz Israel to Eretz Israel, and it's one of the negative commandments. It's part of the Minyan Mitzvot, part of the list of commandments that the mitzvah loving negative commandment in the Minyan Mitzvot Rambam 254. By the way, the Ramban, Rabbi Moshe Ben Nachman asked a question: well, how come the Rambam did not mention the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Israel, to occupy the Eretz Israel, as the list of the mitzvot? It's a big question, because it's a mitzvah. It's important according to the Ramban. So there's a book called Megillat Esther. He tried to say that the Rambam listed only mitzvah ledorot, only mitzvah that applies not for a short period of time, but forever, for future generation. And this is mitzvah lezman mesuyam. So some ask, what do you mean? Mitzvah Yishuv Eretz Israel is also ledorot. So there's a book called Avnei Nezer. Avnei Nezer tried to say that this is echad mishlosh tashvot. It was a 3 oath that they took. One of them is לא להתגרות בגויים, not to cause the enemies to be angered before time. So a famous מכתב לרבי יהודה הלוי for the Matzav in Eretz Yisrael. So in basic, it's a disputation between the Rambam and the Ramban. Ramban listed this as one of the commandments to occupy the land, to conquer the land. Rambam not. Anyway. תניא אידך לא תסגיר עבד על אדוניו, רבי אומר ולוקח עבד על שחרו, he take the slave in order to release him. איך ידע אמר רב נחמן בר יצחק, וכתב לאחל, כשככה הרי עצמך קנו למעכשיו. So it's a retroactive act of freeing. רב חיסדא ערק לעבדה בלב איכותיי, רב חיסדא have an issue that he live outside of Eretz Yisrael, and Rashi explained that he himself lived in Babylon. So his slave ran away to a place, the place Beikutai. שלח לו אדרון ילי, he asked the people to return the slave back. שלחו לו לסגיר עבד לעבדיו. The Torah said you should not bring the slave back to his master. So he answered, he said, שלח לו, וכן תעשה לחמרו, וכן תעשה לצנתו, וכן תעשה לכל עבדת אחיך. He bring the pasuk in the Devarim 22 that speak about returning lost. And he said, this is one of the returning lost, that it's my slave. שלחו והכתיבו לו לסגיר עבד לעבדיו. שלח לו, ההוא בעבד שברח מחוץ לארץ לארץ, ובחי ברבי יושע. It says only applies that you do not return the slave if you run from outside of Eretz Israel to Eretz Israel, but here both places are outside of Eretz Israel, so therefore you have the obligation to return the lost item, and the same in any other item like a biblical donkey, ox, whatever thing, he was the slave, you have the obligation to return it. So Gemara challenged that answer and said, that's the way he understood and knew that Bekutai don't listen to the word of the sages. So they just want to go by the literal understanding of the text. So therefore, you bring them the way that he understands the drasha. Here the story of Abaye that lost his donkey. He's saying, people, Bekutai, he has to return his lost. They said, bring him a sign that it's yours. So here is the great sages of Abaye, that he needs to bring a sign. So he said, that they have a belly that's white. And I explained in my book, in my book Rashi said here, Rashi have an issue, what does that mean, Nachmani? And basically it's the same words as Abaye, but basically they are right in a way, because the Gemara of Metzia 27-28 said that you need to bring a simanim. But the Gemara also said in Metzia 23 that if it's Talmid Chacham, if it's Torah scholar, that is well known, he's a pious man, doesn't fly, so it's a different story. If it was not a giant scholar like you, Abaye, Nachmani, so all the donkey can have a white belly. So that's not sufficient. But because you are what you are, the trustworthy, and we trust you, the way of thinking, so we take your word. And now the Mishnah dealing with a very painful subject, which is released prisoners. We know that the state of Israel in the modern day suffered that greatly. Sometimes you have terrorist organizations, they want for one soldier 1,000 terrorists. So these are all the arguments, how far you go with compensations. In Talmudic time, we talk money. Well, there are many stories involved with this, how far you go with compensation for monetary compensation, for example, for enemies, in exchange of prisoners. In better than the world, you should not overpay. So in those days it was a slave market, you know how much people worth. In that sense, that's what you're allowed to pay. Don't exceed more than that amount. You don't help the prisoner, the captive, to run away, because then they're going to torture others and impose about for other prisoners more than they are. The Gemara explained later that you cannot release some. The Tosfot explained that if it's for yourself, it's a different story. But if it's, the Rambam said, husband, wife, so it's any price. Because he eats all his life from Nichsei Milo, from her estate. We know the Gemara that Yoshua ben Hananiah, they pay more than his value. But as we said in the introduction, the story of Maram Rothenburg, great rabbi, that he was in a jail and he refused. The community was ready and willing to overpay, to release him, and he refused to because he didn't want to pave the way that other people would do that, and unfortunately die in jail. There's a book called Chavot Yair. Chavot Yair is a great rabbi that have a responsa over this. And he asked about if someone wants to release a prisoner, for example, more current nowadays, the Second World War II, Second World War. So you have there that cases that people have a great fear that you release a prisoner and then they take other prisoner and torture them more than they will get. It's a very painful response from several great giant rabbis over this, how far you go with paying compensation for releasing prisoners. What's the reason that you said that it's a betterment of the world? It's because you don't want to impose upon the community to overpay, or because people in the community will impoverish if you do that. So here's a story about a fellow Levi that he released his daughter for 13,000 golden dinar without asking public for that. So it means they're not concerned about taking more captive. It's only for imposing on the community. Who told you that he did in the concern of the rabbis? Maybe he did it in a way that the rabbis not goes there. The Gemara did not reconcile it. The Ran elaborates. So if it's for yourself, it's different. The rabbi is not limited you. But if it's a community, it's a different story. So many stories. Here's one of them. It's a rabbi of Weizen. It's a place in Europe, Eastern Europe. So the story during the Shoah, during the Holocaust, he had only one son that was taken to captivity. So he gets a source, that philanthropists, that offer a lot of money to release him from those evil capture. But the fear is that they will take someone else and do the same. So you see that he refused to do it. And if you think about that response, it's more than the story of the Torah of binding of Isaac, because binding of Isaac, you see clearly that the outcome and the requirement here, no one asked him to give away his son. This is Sirut Nefesh. This is the sacrificial offering for faith in God. Anyway, והם מבריחים את השבויים מפני תיקון העולם, רבן שמעון גמליאל אומר, מפני כנען השבויים, מהי ביניים, וכבניים דבק על אחד. So it's only one prisoner. So one prisoner, so we follow Tanakama that you not help to have a captive run away, even if he's the only one. But if he can run away, you shouldn't worry about others. That's the Pitchet Tshuva bring Chavot Yair. Anyway, מנתן לרב נחמן בחשם קריד רבי ידיו. קשל לרב איליש, כתיב אדם אחד מאלף מצאתי וישר בכל אלו מצאתי. So the Rashash said, we have the story of Marukva. Anyway, so העיקר מנתן לרב נחמן, גם הוא לומד לה והשתביין. והשתבע יהוד נמי בידיו. So Rav Ilish also was captured with the daughter of Rahman. יום אחד הווה יתיב גבי דאו גברה דאו ידע בלשון לציפורי. One day, Rav Ilish was in the captivity, and he's a person that understands the language of the birds. He heard the ravens calling. Amar lei, Maika Amar. He asked what he meant. Rabbi Akiva Iger elaborates. But anyway, Amar lei, Ilish brach, run away. Amar lei, Ova shikro v'lo samich nalei. I don't trust the raven. He is lying. That's the Torah said about Noach. If you read in Bereshit chapter 8. That the Marshal said that the raven is not trustworthy. You see, he circle around the ark, he come back. So he come a door. אמר לי, מה יקרה? אמרה לי, איליש ברח. אמר, כנסת ישראל כי יונה מטילה. שמאמינה מתחיכי של ניסה. So he predicted that it's a nest, it's a miracle. It's the first, the Bobover Rebbe, the first one. He have put up a big fight against the Maskilim, the Enlightenment movement at that time. So he said they captured one mitzvah and they going astray for everyone from the way of Torah. So he said that's the part of the Sidracha, the Dor Mashiach, the same as Orev, the same as the raven. Anyway, אמר להזיל אחזן בנתי מרב נחמן, יקיימן באמונותיי האדרינו. אמר נשה כל מיני דהיתלו, סדרן לעד לבית הכיסא. They talk each other in the bathroom. שומעים לי כמה רמעדי גוברין ונהר די גוברין. So I explained in my book on Rashi said, כלומר כשהם היו בעלינו, כך אלו בעלינו. אנו צריכים עוד להם. So again, I elaborate what does that mean. The meant to say that they with the new one and not with the husband. למה לא הושבו עליהם לחקר מאחה, דילו לא הייתו אנשים לשמר לפריקרינן. So it means that it's lack of loyalty. כמה רק את היו הבאו גברא לדידי התרחיש לניסה עבד במברה, והוא גברא השכחו וקטלוה. כי אדרן ועתן אמר, והבו כבחשם כדרה וכשפים. So basically it's all, the Maharsha said it was against the will that they release. They appear to be righteous, but they are not. וחתם סופר, the issue with that, he said that the whole issue of animals, you have the issue of בליעה is בשר או פליטה לאוכל. So how can you eat it? It's a kishuf. He said about my grandfather, מדבר על gems, that he touched a fire, he says it's part of the sigufin. He says that he touched the fire turned extinguished. He says even the fire doesn't want chotek amoni. But Chatam Sofer said, that's the idea of Echad Me'elef, that sometimes they don't let the husband to study, and therefore you find only 1 of 1,000 that go by the Hora'ah. The Chatam Sofer elaborates, it says, the Pasuk says, Vayakutzu b'pnei bnei Israel, and also they said, Vayish Moshe alav me'od. So he said, that's the idea of God show, Mishpachat HaChanochi, Mishpachat HaPaloi, the 8 name of God. So, Vayish Moshe, it's all בטהרה, it's all pure. ואין לוקחים ספרים, the Mishnah said, you don't purchase ספרי תורה, תפילים וזאת מעובדי כוכבים יותר על כדי מהם. Again, you don't pay the idolaters more than the values. 45b, מפני תיקון העולם, for embellment the world. Either in that, Rashi said, לדחוק את הציבור to enforce upon the public such a expense, or you increase the theft of the sacred books to sell them its large amount of money. Rashi said, is a story about Chidushei Arim. Chidushei Arim is the Ger Rebbe, was the brother-in-law of the Kotzker Rebbe. So there are items, there are chatanim, by the fellow named, well-known fellow by the name of Berg. So they said how he merited to have such a giant scholars being his son-in-laws. During the war, they go and say that in Russia and Poland, they kill many fellow Jews. So he took 2 big barrels filled with golden coins, and he said, anyone who bring me a living Jew, surviving, will reach 5 points. Anyone who bring me a dead one that we can bury it properly, you get 2 points. So because he did such a thing, he inherited to have such a wonderful children and son-in-law. אמר לרב בודיה לרב אשי, יותר כדי דמיהם, הוא דן לוקחים, אבל בכדי דמיהם לוקחים. שמע, מן הספר תורה שנמצא בנו בכתבים לוקחים, קוראים בו. So the Gemara said, Dilma lignoz. Maybe it doesn't mean that the Torah scroll is purchased in order to read it, but in order to inter and not to use it. However, it is nevertheless purchased so that it will be desecrated by those idolaters. אמר רב נחמן, נקטין על ספר תורה שכתבו מין, יישרף. We have that if the Sefer Torah is written by a heretic, it needs to be burned. כתבו עובד כוכבים יגנז. So if the idolater, it should be interred, the Torah scroll. נמצא ביד מין ייגנז. נמצא ביד כוכבים, אומרים להיגנז ואומרים לה קוראים בו. ספר תורה שכתבו עובד כוכבים תן אחד הישרף ותן אידך להיגנז, ותן אידך קוראים בו, לא קשיא. הלתן ישרף רבי אליעזר אמר, this is גמרא חולין, page 38b, סתם עכשיו דור כוכבים לעבודת כוכבים. Usually, the unspecified intention of these idol worshippers for idol worship. So everything he wrote assumed to be written for the sake of idolaters worship and be burned. But the Tanya Miganez, התנו לתנא רב אמונה בן רבא מפרשרוניה. ספר תורה אפילו זאת שכתבה מין, או שכתבה, is different, הוא מסור, גוי ועבד אישה וקטן וחוטי וישראל, ומה פסולין. All these categories, Samaritans, apostate, unfit, etc. It's not, because there's a pasuk in Deuteronomy 6, they said, וקשרתם וכתבתם, and you should bind them, a sign in your hand, you should write them on the doorpost of your house. כל שישנו בקשירה, ישנו בכתיבה, וכל שאינו בקשירה, אינו בכתיבה. So something that it's not included in the mitzvah of binding, it's not included in class, when people write sacred text. והלתניא קוראים בו, הייתנו לתניא, לוקח ספרים מן הגויים בכל מקום, ולבד שכתובים כהלכתם. ומעשה בעובד כוכבים אחד בצידן, שהיו כותב ספרים, which is the Torah scroll, והתיר רבן שמעון גמליאל לקח ממנו. So it means that it's not always that conditions. ורבן שמעון גמליאל, עיבוד לשמן באי, כתיבה לשמן לא באי. So it means for the sake of the use of the mitzvah, it's okay, but he does not require that the writing is for their sake. The Tanya. This is a braita that Rabban Shimon Gamliel requires that the parchment be prepared for their sake. Tzipan zahav. Tzipan zahav, so here Rashi, again, we don't have the time, but Rashi here used the word klomar. Anyway, I don't have the time. So ציפן זהב ושתרה להם אור במת טמאה פסולות, אור במת תורה כשרות, ואף על פי שלא יבדל נשמע. רבן שמעון גמליאל אומר, אפילו אור במת תורה פסולות עד שיבדל נשמע. So even the skin of kosher animal, they are unfit, until he prepared them for their sake. So he told that the parchment need to be prepared for the sake. The actual writing should certainly be done for their sake. Beged shechazar lesuro, which means that if you get, אפילו במה התורה פסולת של בני משמען, אמר רבא בר רב שמואל, בגר שחזר לסורו. So he speak about, unfortunately, a convert who returned to the previous corrupt way. So by reverting to the living as a idolater, he nevertheless remains a fellow Jew. So that's Rashi in Horayot 13. That's the Yitzhara that bring him to the bad way. לסורו, כל שכן דאב אלמין, מרבש שחוזר לסורו משום יראה, because he has a fear. It's corrupt due to fear, not because he rejected the Jewish faith. So he ceased acting like a Jew out of fear of all kind of reasons. Since he's a Jew, it is permitted for him to read from the Torah scrolls that he writes. תנו רבנן מעלים דמי עד כדי טרפיק. So מהי טרפיק? אמר רב ששת איסתרה. So 1/2 of the dinar. ההוא תעייתה. That's a תעייתה, that's a Arab merchant. דעייתה חייתה בתפילה לקמידה אביי. So it's a Ishmaelite woman that brought before the Abaye a sack of tefillin. אמר לה, יהבת לי ריש בתמרי? Will you give me each pair for a date? אימליה זיהרה שקלה שתינו בנהרה. So she became full of anger and took the tefillin and threw them to the river because Abaye offered her such a small amount in exchange of them. אמר, לא איבא אלה לזלזולני הוא באפה כל ההי. They said, after he regretted, he have an act of contrition and remorse, I should not have denigrated the tefillin so much in her presence, but rather I should offer to pay her the actual values. So we derive from that you do not offer too little. The Beit Yosef is already Reish Pei Aleph 281, Mishnah Berurah 39:18 said that you do not create derech bizayon. The truth of the matter, I was once in JFK, listen to this. I was sitting waiting for an Al airline, one of the flights, and a fellow, looks like Afro-American, approached me, but he have, instead of pear tefillin, just one part, brand new head tefillin. So I look at him and he says, do you want to buy this? So I said to him, where is the other part? He says, that's the only one I have. So to me it was clear that he stole it, especially it looks brand new. I said, no, you have only half. Where is the other half? He says, hey, how much you want to buy it? I said, $20. He says, what do you mean $20? It's worth a couple of hundreds. I said, how do you know it's worth 500 if you don't understand that it's half of that missing? He says, okay, goodbye. I said, look, I can give you 30. To make a long story short, I gave him, I don't remember exactly, I think it was $50, but just because of this Gemara, that even I knew that he stole it and I need to put in the Giza because it's only half, but I still didn't want him to trash it or who knows what, from where he took it. Anyway, the Mishnah said, המוציא את אשתו משום שם רע לא יחזיר. If a fellow divorced his wife due to her bad reputation, which he heard that she had committed adultery, so he may not remarry her, even if it's become clear that she did not, in fact, commit adultery. משום נדר לא יחזיר. If it's due to a vow, he should not have a back. רבי יהודה אומר, כל נדר שידעו בו רבים לא יחזיר ושלא ידעו בו רבים יחזיר. As long as it's not knowledge of public, that's different between, רבי מאיר אומר, כל נדר שצריך חקירת חכם לא יחזיר. Any vow that needs to have a investigation, and the solution by halachic authority, and dissolve even without that, so he may remarry her. שלא צריך חקירת חכם יחזיר. אמר רבי אלעזר לא אסרו זרע מפני זרע. But as I said, the prohibition, the whole idea of prohibited him from remarrying her in this case where she stated a vow that requires dissolution by halachic authority only due to that case where she stated a vow that does not require dissolution by halachic authority. אמר רבי יוסי ברבי יהודה, מעשה בציידן, באחד שאמר לאשתו, it was a place called ציידן, incident, that one said to his wife, קונה מנינני מגרשך וגרשה, which is forbidden like an offering, that will not divorce you, and he divorced her. והתירו לו חכמים שיחזירה מפני תיקון העולם. They said allow him to remarry her for the betterment of the world. The Gemara explained later what is the Mishnah meant in that sense.